There we go. We are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Getting Personal with Compt. I'm Lauren Schneider, your host. I'm the head of communications at Compt. This is a show where we interview workplace experts that spans any title. I'm talking HR professionals. I'm talking finance professionals. I'm talking benefits brokers like we have with us today. I'd like to introduce you all to John Coleman. John is a senior consultant at Mercer. He also has a YouTube channel called Friends with Your Benefits. And fun fact, our founder CEO, Amy Sperling, was on his show recently. We talk all about lifestyle spending accounts. We will touch on those today, but I want to dive deeper into the world of benefits, the broker relationship with HR and finance, and all of the things that are happening right now as we prepare for the open enrollment season that is quickly approaching. It seems like in the last week alone, we've gotten tons of emails come in asking, what should we do? What kind of packages should we look at? John, I wanted to ask you, is it industry specific where these things are happening? What industries are having the hardest time hiring, retaining people right now? What kind of conversations are you having?
Sure. Well, first, Lauren, thank you so much for having me on the LinkedIn Live today. It's always fun to be on the other side of the mic, so certainly appreciate that.
Of
So
course.
last month, and yeah, I think in a few weeks, the Bureau of Labor Statistics is going to publish some updated data. And based on their data, really no surprise if you take a look at the industries that are hiring and really need people to, fill open jobs. It's retail, it's healthcare, hospitality, professional services, and anecdotally, with my clients in the manufacturing sector, I'm seeing them, try and do all that they can do to get the right talent in. Certainly, the tech sector is still continuing to have its struggles, but despite that, the rest of the economy and particularly the labor market in general is still red hot.
So, what things in particular are impacting your clients right now, especially manufacturing? Are they also seeing budget cuts? How are they navigating this market and supporting employees despite all of the hurdles they have to overcome?
Sure. So that's certainly a fair question, Lauren. So I think the overarching theme is there's really two things that are going on. So, number one, we all know that overall inflation is up. It hasn't really cooled yet, despite what the feds are doing. And it's starting to impact clients' health and welfare renewals. And what do we mean by that? It's really just where their 2024 projected costs are going to be. But on the flip side, workers are really saying, hey, if you want us, you really have to offer exceptional benefits or benefits that are kind of better than average or will meet my needs if you want me, Mr. Employer, Miss Employer, as someone to work for your organization. So really, it's kind of that duality that's going on, and we're trying to help clients through it right now.
You say exceptional benefits. That sounds expensive. Is that the general consensus you're getting from your clients? Are they concerned that they're going to have to throw more money at the problem, or is there another way around this?
Sure. So I would say, like, let's take a step back just in terms of where the workers' mindset of today is compared to the past, if that's okay, Lauren.
Of course.
So if we take a look maybe 10, 15 years ago, certainly when I was, cutting my teeth in the consulting world, the old mindset was, hey, work hard, get promoted, you'll get rewarded. And in the future, you can really figure out your own health and welfare total rewards. That's kind of more of a long-term play. Short term is really working hard, rolling up your sleeves, and doing what needs to be done to get the job done. Now, we do know COVID happened, right? And a lot
Mhm.
of people, unfortunately, left the workforce. And there's still a ton, as I mentioned before, of open jobs out there. And really, for the first time in a really long time, workers actually had a lot of demand and a lot of market power where before they didn't. So there's been a kind of mindset shift among many, not all workers, that, hey, I want to live for today. I want to live
Right.
my most authentic life. And if you, as the employer, are not going to provide me with what I need or promote me quick enough, I'm going to move on to another employer that will, right? So that's kind of the mindset just in terms of what workers are doing. And then on the employer end and in HR, they're saying, okay, let's take a look at our benefits. On the employer end, it used to be let's design benefits that meet the needs of the average employee out there. And we do know post 2020 that there's been that mindset shift among employers. I mean, DEI continues to be huge. And instead of providing benefits to meet the average worker, It's what can we do to provide something for everyone, right? So, example of that clearly can be a lifestyle spending account, where a lifestyle spending account, and Lauren, you know more about this than I do, but virtually all clients, and even those in the manufacturing sector, are looking at them and saying, hey, is there an opportunity where budgets potentially are being cut to redirect some dollars to an LSA to really give employees benefits that they ultimately value?
We talk a lot about benefits budgets in this space because I think the past thought was that fringe benefits in particular are added costs. These are things that maybe weren't originally factored into my budget. And while we were preparing for this call, you had mentioned some of the changes in health insurance contributions as well. So I think there might be some push and pull that we'll continue to see over the course of this year, next year. Can you talk a little bit about how you're seeing, HR teams, finance teams who are usually brought in on calls with you navigate this?
Sure. So the first thing is, the overall step. And again, I would say this was a little bit of a mindset shift compared to just a few years ago. It was kind of, let's look at everything on a siloed basis historically, right? And what do I mean by that is, let's look at our medical and prescription drug renewal siloed. We figure that out. Then we look at dental, then we look at vision, then we look at life and disability, and then we look at all the other, kind of fringe benefits that are available. But really now they're saying, hey, let's forget about that approach. Those individual lines of coverage are important, but really let's look at things holistically. So, where is our overall cost going to be? And what are our mandates from finance, right, in the business, just in terms of where we need to be? And how do we balance that with the needs from employees? So, really, the approach has been, what is working well? Are there any opportunities to optimize? And what do we mean by that is, perhaps there's some benefits that you're offering. Companies kind of put a ton of point solutions in over the last few years. Mentioned before, the comment about point solution fatigue, it's real. And companies are saying, what can we do? Are these all working? Is there opportunities to redirect dollars? And we kind of look at those things. You certainly go through your normal RFP processes to reduce the overall total cost, and there's opportunities there. But from there is, hey, are there opportunities to perhaps lower the cost for everyone without necessarily cost shifting? So, companies may look at, new programs out there, such as the surgical centers of excellence. Perhaps there's some opportunities on the life and disability to perhaps lower the rates there. Lifestyle spending accounts, certainly things there. And then once we kind of go through all those things, the last thing that employers do is, okay, if we need to maybe get our last 3 or 4%, then unfortunately we need to cost shift. Whereas before, the mindset was, okay, let's target an overall cost share percentage. Does that make sense, Lauren?
It does. I feel like there are so many, something that back up. Something that you said stood out to me about so many different point solutions. I feel like we see a lot of very specific vendors because we know that companies want to support health and wellness. We know that they want to support better work life balance. These are the things that employees are saying that they want, but there's so much to choose from. I mean, you can get a vendor that's specifically just a mindfulness app, or you could get
Mhm.
something that supports only fertility or only physical fitness. So as a broker, you're trying to offer the best of the best to your clients and help kind of steer them in the right direction. So how do you go about discovering what is the best option and also the best option that fits the budget, especially when so many of us are thinking about tool consolidation right now and trying to offer everything all in one, but not miss out on quality?
Sure. The first thing I would say is, the most important thing is to look at your own data, right? So if you happen to have a utilization report with, let's say, your medical carrier or your prescription drug carrier, what is really driving your overall healthcare costs? So we start there, right? And let's say we see musculoskeletal costs are way up. Perhaps there's an opportunity to put into virtual physical therapy. So yeah, I personally did that last summer when I did something a little silly and jacked up my back. I was very skeptical of, those solutions, but really, after seeing it, that worked for me. So the first step is really, what is driving your overall cost? Is there a solution to kind of redirect that cost and lower, the overall cost share for you and your employees? And then, anecdotally, it's really important to measure the ROI, right? A lot of these point solutions promise, hey, you're going to get 5 to 1 ROI. Is that really realistic? So you kind of have to look
Mm.
at what's been around in the marketplace, and certain clients have different philosophies. Some are certainly willing to be early adopters and kind of try anything. Others, and many fall in this category, fall into the fast followers where they're not willing to be the first one, but they're willing to be maybe the second, the third. So, again, it's just really where are your dollars being spent, and are there opportunities again to make those more efficient, and then really just is the ROI believable? So yeah, and there's certainly vendors in the marketplace that say, hey, let's just be your own hub for the point solution, right? And sometimes the medical carrier can do that, the PBM can do that, and then there's these standalone hubs as well. So really, it really comes down to what makes sense for your organization. I would say really focus, if you're really focused on point solutions, where are the dollars? And then also you kind of have to measure, are these things working long term? Maybe there's a diabetes solution from 3 or 4 years ago that was working at one point in time that's no longer working. Is there new technology that's coming to the market? And again, are those dollars better spent elsewhere? And if you do turn the programs off, what's the overall employee impact?
So there are so many choices that can be made, and being an HR professional, the daily tasks and administrative burden is a lot. So I want to ask
Yeah.
about the HR and broker relationship. Are you seeing that maybe that is the pathway for them to go to really uncover some new approaches in the market, to streamline their approach to better benefits packages? Like, tell me a little bit more about that relationship, especially since we have so many new HR professionals entering the workforce. And with so many options available, it's not as easy as just Googling what you need anymore.
Yeah, and that's certainly a fair question, Lauren. So I would say, like, if we go back 15 years ago, kind of the old mindset was, okay, let's meet in the summer. Let's figure out what the renewal is. We'll figure out contributions. We'll slap some materials together for open enrollment, and off we go, right? But we do know that that really is not a viable option for virtually all organizations. Yeah, certainly there's some exceptions to that, but for virtually all organizations, they really need a strategic partner. So, what I do personally with my clients and prospects, I try to meet with them early in the year, and I give them just a little update just in terms of what's going on in the market. What are other employers doing? What are we seeing that's a hot trend, right? Last year everyone was talking about paid parental leave. This year, fertility benefits seem to be the buzzword. Oncology. It's something that's coming up in more and more conversations because unfortunately, coming out of COVID, there's a lot of late diagnoses and employers saying, hey, what can we do to support our employees without getting hosed on the medical side, right? So, really, the important thing is when you meet with clients is really saying, hey, here's what we're seeing. And then a lot of clients will say, hey, John, like, this vendor reached out to me. Are they legit, or are they two guys in a garage? And my common answer is they could be two guys in a garage, but I believe that's how Apple and maybe Amazon started, right? But, ultimately it's like, hey, is there a new solution in the marketplace? And if this new solution is there, have they designed a better mousetrap that's not necessarily just going to shift cost or make things complicated? And the really key is it has to be, whatever you do, easy to explain to employees, right? You
Mhm.
can't talk in these HR or finance jargons with all these acronyms. You're going to lose your audience really, really quickly. You really got to go in and say, hey, employees, this is how it's going to benefit you. This is why we're doing the ultimate program. But really, to circle back to your original question, it's really meeting with your clients early and often, providing them just in terms of an update, what's going on in the marketplace, and kind of just hearing from them, like, what are their pain points, right? Every client is unique. It's really not just me talking. I want to have a two-way conversation, right? What are you hearing from your employees? What's top of mind? And then we work together under a partnership just to really figure out solutions that will help meet the needs for their budget, and then also make their employees hopefully happy.
So if they hear about the two guys in a garage and they come to you, to kind of discover if this is a trustworthy solution, how are you learning about the two guys in the garage? Are there just communities of brokers that are all talking about the new benefits approach, the emerging regulations that need to be followed in health insurance? What does that look like?
Sure. So, as a quick plug on the Mercer end. So, within Mercer, we have a database called Mercer VIP. So, whenever there's a new vendor that comes to the marketplace, if they kind of want to be on the table as it relates to solutions that, we're certainly able to talk to our clients about, we ask that they fill out a questionnaire. And then if, let's say, Lauren, you come to me and pretend like, let's say you're in HR and you say, hey, John, tell me about the solution. Perhaps I don't know about them, right? So clearly I can Google. But if they're in our database, that's a great way to kind of look and vet them and say, hey, tell me about this organization. How long have they been around? What is their pitch right here? What value do they provide? How many clients do they have? And then based upon that, I take a look at it and then I'm able to provide the client with, additional information. And let's say they're a very brand new vendor, I'll look them up on LinkedIn, right? And certainly, whoever's out there, feel free to send me a DM on LinkedIn if you have a unique solution that can really help clients out there really solve the whole health and welfare space.
What would you say would be a differentiator for those solutions right now? You had mentioned that last year the buzz was kind of around parental leave. This year we're looking more at fertility. Do you think that it's a specific point solution that would be a differentiator? Or are you looking at more of the holistic lifestyle spending account approach?
So I think it's a little bit of everything, Lauren, just to be candid. So I would say virtually all my clients, I mean, lifestyle spending accounts, in addition to fertility, we're talking to nearly all our clients about lifestyle spending accounts. So they kind of heard about them last fall. And really, we're doing the modeling, right? And saying, hey, here are the pros and the cons of the lifestyle spending accounts. And some clients will do some math and they'll say, oh my God, this is a lot of money. If you have 1,000 employees, it could be, over $1 million a year, depending on how much money. But then really, the conversation should not stop there, right? That's one way just to easily do some spreadsheet math. But then, okay, could these dollars for the LSA that you're looking to make an investment, could they be taken from programs that are kind of failing? Like the gym reimbursement program is a classic example where you're probably going to get maybe 10% utilization, fairly low, but could those dollars be, better spent elsewhere? So, kind of things like that. Does that make sense, Lauren?
It does. I also want to ask about because we have been talking about the underlying budget throughout this entire conversation. The process that we go through, for example, in trying to shadow self through HR to the finance team, because you need to get buy in from the purse holder.
Yeah.
What does that look like from the broker side? What kind of conversations are you having with HR to equip them with, the best knowledge and best situation to get the benefits that they want to offer their employees?
Sure. So the best thing is just really having open and transparent conversations. So each organization is different. Some organizations may have benefits committees, but typically the process starts with HR. So we have that initial conversation, early in the year, planning for 2024 in this example. We show them what's going on. We give them, if they're self-insured, a preliminary renewal. And we kind of hear from them, what are things and initiatives that you would like to tackle? We present ideas and solutions that we think could be of value, and then from there, we give them options, right? And I find a lot of times that if HR wants to get something approved, it's good to kind of have a low, medium, and high option, right? Like kind of have the low, which are kind of the things that we think, the CFOs and whoever else, and sometimes CEOs will approve. And, we go from there. Here's a medium option. And then here's kind of our reach option. And again, depending on what the goals and objectives are of the CFOs, sometimes those high options certainly are the ones getting approved. But I would say really just kind of approach it and give options and say, here's the solution that we're kind of recommending, give rationale why. But again, remember, with the CFOs, they're not always going to sit in benefits, right? They might look at benefits a handful of times a year and they look at it as an expense. It's really important just to give them a high level education, explain to them why the changes that you're looking to make are needed, what's the rationale, and then really just understand what the employee impact is as well.
Now, the last question I want to ask you before we part today is a little bit of a look into the future. So, which is so hard because the trends are just constantly
Yeah.
changing in this space. But what do you anticipate to see from benefits perspective over the course of the summer as we approach open enrollment? Do you think that there's anything that will be interesting to note, something that might be shocking that we should be on the lookout for? And how will that evolve as we head into the end of the year, into the beginning of next year? Because this cycle is just, it's constant. These are conversations that need to happen regularly.
Sure. And again, as you mentioned before, it's a cycle, right? It never really ends. So the first thing that I'll mention is a little spoiler alert. If you're an employer out there and you happen to offer HSA plans, you may actually need to increase your deductible next year. The IRS came out on Tuesday with the new minimum deductible levels. And the new minimum deductible levels will be $1,600 for single, $3,200 for family. But on the flip side, employees will definitely be able to contribute more to their HSAs. So if you have deductibles that are below that, and there's a lot of employers that do, you'll unfortunately need to increase the deductible. And then, from the talk track perspective, there's really two approaches. So one is just to align with the IRS minimums, or number two, perhaps you go for a slightly higher deductible and then you buy yourself a few years without necessarily having to increase the deductible. So really, I would say all employers are trying to figure out, hey, what is the overall budget? Is it going to be higher this year given that overall inflation is? And ultimately, what can we do to educate our employees? Really, what we're seeing kind of in the marketplace from a finance perspective is, unfortunately, oncology spend that we mentioned before is really going to increase employers' health and welfare budgets short term and then long term as well. And then we see the medications out there, Ozempic. I mean, you go on social media, we're on social media right now. I mean, hashtag Ozempic face is everywhere. And these medications cost about $1,000 per patient per month. And everyone really kind of wants them, the Wegovy's of the world, what have you. So, employers are trying to do this balancing act. Should we add, these weight loss medications? How do we approach oncology spend? The good thing is there are viable solutions and things you could do to kind of make sure those dollars are being spent efficiently and kind of minimize the top line cost, again, without shifting costs to employees or really minimizing that cost. And then, once, those budgets are approved, it's really, okay, how do we provide a best in class open enrollment experience to employees? I would say it's super, super important to communicate early, communicate often. And again, going back to the theme before, really speaking in the employees' own language and words. And clearly, from a regulatory perspective, there's some notices that you kind of have to put in a very specific format. But meet with your employees, tell them why things are happening, make it feel like, from their perspective, you're partnering with them, and they'll be more engaged with your benefits.
Sure. That makes plenty of sense. John, I wanted to thank you so much for your time today. Before we say goodbye, where can people find you? How can they reach out if they have questions? They need a broker they can trust. They have no idea what to do for the upcoming enrollment season.
Sure. So, Lauren, so anyone out there can certainly take a look and look me up on LinkedIn. So, I'm John Coleman. A picture of me, similar to what you see there, will be out there. Also, if you want to learn a little bit more about benefits, or there's a very specific benefits topic that you want to hear a little bit more about, or perhaps you want to see our interview that we did recently with Amy, the CEO of Compt, feel free to look me up on YouTube. My YouTube channel is, as you see below, Friends with Your Benefits.
Great. Thanks so much for your time today, John. It was fantastic speaking with you.
Thank you so much for having me on today, Lauren. Really appreciate it.
Of course. And everyone will be back. I think next week we're going to have Amy on again. I just love picking her brain about all things that are happening in this space. And then next month we'll have someone else in terms of workplace expert to talk a little bit more of the DEI focus for this year. And as always, if you'd also like to be on our show, just reach out. You can send me an email, lauren@compt.io. Find our website, send us a message on LinkedIn. Anywhere that you can find us online, you'll probably find me and I'll book you. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a nice day.